Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Oratio Podium. Today, we are joined by Toby, one of the most experienced persons which we have around from Nigeria as well as currently in China doing debate coaching there. We have a lot of things to discuss, and I'm pretty sure there will be a lot of engaging conversation points and talking points which will give you an idea about his debating journeys and also experiences which will give back to you also in terms of how you are going to start away. Toby, if you might please introduce yourself and say a bit about yourself so that our audience and viewers can also know a bit about you.
All right, thank you so much for having me. First, this is really a nice platform where we get to discuss the most beautiful sport, debating. So kudos to the organizing committee and kudos to you too. I think we've known ourselves for a while now, and we're legitly serving as a CA in a comp in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So yeah, thank you. You've done most of the introductions, like Toby. I I currently work as a debate coach with Nova Debate Institute. It's based in China. So basically, how I've been a debater, career judge, I must say, but I've dived into speaking, done some competitions. I've spoken like 3 times this year, and I think twice last year. So I'm a judge and a speaker now, I guess.
Very interesting. So there are a lot of discussion points. So let's just dive straight into it. So the first thing that we'll probably discuss is what really hooked you into debating. Like, what was the first instance where you sort of thought that right, debating is something for me?
So for me, I started debating. Um, there is a debate style in Nigeria where we call it's a one view one debating. The random where they just roll out a random topic like teachers are better than doctors, and then you just engage that for the engagement purpose. So I think that was a style of debating we had in Nigeria. We were not exposed to the WSDC debating format in my high school. Why I went into debating is when I got to college in the university. My first year was way rough, like way rough. I had some issues in terms of staying in college or the options of my major because I wanted to study medicine and I couldn't get medicine. So within that period, I needed something to just cope with. So I had a friend who was a debater, Idris, and one of these days I walked into the debating, the all they usually have debating, and I think that was what changed how I see debating, or as I always say, that was like one of the most defining moments of my life because from then it's been like debating all through. So that single actions of I needed a coping mechanism, and I actually saw debating as a place where you could hear your opinions and they are valid. Like it's the only space where people listen to you. So in the debating room, maybe before prep time or during prep time or within debate or the conversations outside debate or the emotions that comes with debating in terms of when before break announcements, during break announcements, after break announcements, and it's just fun. It gives you all of the taste of sweet, bitter, and fun feel experience. So that's how I find my way into debating in short.
That's true. I think there is a lot to say in terms of how debating experiences coalesce into say good fond memories and also give you a lot more in terms of the way in which you're approaching the sport because at the end of the day you're doing this for like some sort of like hobby or in some forms and some sort of excitement that you have for the sport and that's why you get embroiled into it. So the next thing that we'll probably talk about here is about how you have evolved like as a debater. You mentioned that you were a career judge. So people mention this thought process about career judges and how they've always just been judging competitions and not speaking so much. So like why would you say that that is something which is good in terms of referring to you, and how did you like sort of go into that pathway of judging more than speaking at that time?
Oh, so I started as a speaker, and in the process, I actually met like there's someone who had contributed immensely to African debating. Mace Peterson is the owner of. So Mace is a very good friend of mine. And one of the competition, I think he asked me to judge, and I just enjoy listening to speakers and then being able to like analyze clashes, and that's how I went into judging. And for me, I think I enjoy judging to speaking. Like when I judge, I really really enjoy the 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 ability to just style those speeches and then put all of the pictures of each speakers together, do the weighing, like check how the debates had gone, and then be able to deliver OA that is convincing enough for all of the four teams in the debate. Because that's how you get good feedback in the best case scenario. If you do not do that well, then you get bad feedbacks and you might not break in comms. So you need to first ensure you listen to the debate extensively well, and then you're able to put the debate together in terms of why that debate is the way it was, and then give good OAs or very, very nice OA in related to that. So for me, listening to debating and then being a judge was everything that I wanted to. So after the invitation by Maze, I judged my first competition, and that's the fun part was my first competition after that trial judging is round judge was PAUDC, 2021 now. Yeah, 2021 PAUDC, the Botswana PAUDC. And that was the first major competition I was judging. And apparently, I didn't get to chair the first two in rounds because I was still novice. And from there, I broke in PAUDC. I judged the grand finals because I did really, really well in that comp. And since then it's just been something I really really enjoy doing, and it's still something I do. I still judge comms, and like I still enjoy judging debates like I did the first day I stepped into a debate room judging.
If you are not really in tune with the sport and you're not really loving it, I think you can't really make a career out of it as you have. So there were obviously personal experiences and things that you've approached in this particular discussion where you would have thought to yourself, right, this is something which is going hard, this is something which is going good, and this is something that I need to do, or this is something that I need to improve upon. So in that sense, where do you think currently you would say that people who are approaching the sport should do? Because you mentioned your own journey and your beginning, so what would be something you say to people who are starting out right now?
I think it's getting or identifying where you best thrive or what you enjoy doing. And I must say, there is so much conversation around debaters and judges saying, oh, we do not have so much good judges around, or we do not have judges that correspond to the speakers that we have in terms of quality. I'm one of those, or I'm in the school of thought that maybe because we do not give so much to judges who do really, really well, also. Like, we do not encourage judges. The best speakers within tournaments are static. So if you attend any tournament, you know there is a top 10 best speaker. It's a sure thing. But then it's almost not a rule that we should have top 10 best judges in each comps. Some comps do them, some comps do not. And I understand why some competitions do not do them, because sometimes those numbers and feedbacks are not just the direct representation of the performance of judges within that comp. But I think maybe doing that would ensure that we have good judges. But back to your question, I think people should just do what they think is best for them. If you're listening to this podcast and you are torn between being a speaker or a judge, you should just do what best works for you. Do you enjoy judging? Do you enjoy speaking? And I must say, the one in which you're comfortable with the most is intuitively the right thing to do. And yeah, I wish the person who wants to take this decision all of the best in whatsoever they pick of these two parts.
Very true. I think there is also a couple of conversations to be had about, say, access and different ways in which you have, say, experience, say, things in Nigeria and versus things you've experienced in China. So the first thing that I would say is that when you were making this transition into the journey into debate coaching, because you said you've been a career judge, you've judged a lot of competitions, you've done a lot of regional majors, which we'll be discussing a bit more in the coming few minutes. But when you say that you've transitioned from like judging to coaching as well, what like made you get into coaching, and how did you see coaching as a venture when you were starting out doing it?
Oh, I think judging really, really helps you to be a good coach, because And that's a personal opinion, anyways, because when you listen to debates, you're able to identify, or you were taught or will learn to give feedbacks to teams. You listen to the round, you see areas teams or speakers should improve in. Is it the team synergy? Are the arguments well mechanized? Do they lack impact? Are they low hanging fruits? So those are questions you ask yourself before you give OAs in terms of feedback. And like putting that into coaching was swift for me. So when the offer came to serve as a coach, it's just like, well, so one, you have to work more because you have to work more as a coach, but this time you still put those skills into use in terms of listening to the speech, judging the speech, feedback. Now it's more a coincides feedback, and then trying to ensure that they improve based on those feedbacks they've talked about. So in and of itself, it's intertwined journey between coaching and judging for me, and it's personal experience now. So judging actually made my transition into coaching a swift experience. It does really, really help me, and it's still helping me, I must say.
So are you teaching high school kids right now, or you're also doing like university level kids also that you're teaching?
High school for the professional part, but for the university part, Nigerian national University of Ilorin team. I think I was part of the coaching crews before the ANUDC, the All Nigerian University debates last year, which they win. I had worked with some other universities as short term. So yeah, for the free portion, university students, but for the paid job, high schoolers.
Very interesting. I think that leads very good into my next question as well. So the first thing that I would like to ask is, since you're dealing with young children, so that might be something of a very important thing to consider when you're doing debate education. So how have your experiences been around like children who are in school, and how do you like sort of have the ability to teach them well? What are the things that you've observed which are important here?
I'm going to face this question into two sections. One is going to be just the positive side of it. I think the high schooler is just a voice that the sport would never die. Like the passion most people put into the sport, the emotion that comes with it. So when we go for a particular tournament and they do not break, some of them just burst into tears for not breaking, which for me it's emotionally disturbing, but at the same time it pushes them in their next come to do better. And if you could share tears for a particular action, it means it's a cause that you really, really enjoy, or it's an activity that you love so much. So um, that's one key observation. The sport is loved. People really, really want to do debating. Most parents are really, really encouraging of the sport. They love the fact that their kids could think on their feet if they are doing WSDC or BP. But the second thing is that debating just improves so much about you, the way you talk, the way you engage live. You're able to, you ought to read before debates rounds or before debates tournaments. You need to have information about what's happening in the world, and every other activities happening around the world. You need to be a bit vast on things like philosophy. You need to know econs a bit. You need to know sports, like areas that you do not generally have interest in. You have to go to those areas because of debating. So it's parents are really, really grateful for such sports that like could merge all of the fields and then put those fields together to give their children the best of opportunity. But on the downside, I think it's just maybe the fact that in terms of competitions, so the competitions sometimes are few, but secondly is outside having like fewer competitions and all, I think the second part is just some of them really, really, because like when there is so much access in terms of materials, you can just skip looking at those materials and you don't pay keen attentions to those material or utilize those material. I remember when we started, and I think I was sharing this. Can I just go off the conversation a bit? So I was sharing this with Mohammed, who is a very good friend, about when we actually started debating at the URLDC that I mentioned earlier. We had literally nothing. The only thing we had was our phones and our data plans. And those data plans in Nigeria, the way they work is the datas are cheaper from 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. So the data services has a plan, they call it the midnight plan, where the prices are outrageously cheap. So that's the only time you could see videos. So we'll go to YouTube, watch Ashish. Because I was a judge, so I wasn't watching the Shangri speech, the Ashish. They were always talk on those speeches. I was watching Ensign Lee's judging videos. There were so much Ensign Lee judging videos that I was consuming. So we go to YouTube, the Manchester Union judging video, and kudos to all of those videos that have been on the internet before now to just push some of us. So I think now the materials are available, but some of them do not engage those material. Yeah, that's the downside, I guess.
Very true. There are a lot of other considerable moving parts there, right? Because when you say that children are not engaging with material, or there are some things and approaches that you need to take with children, they're of course going to be very different from the ones that you're taking with university students as well. So I think there are a couple of things that we can discuss here as well, right? Because I think the first thing is access to competitions becomes an issue, because I think school competitions are very labored and very problematic when you're going beyond the WSDC format. But also there are a couple of other moving parts and elements that are there, and children often have like disjointed interests. Their attention spans sometimes are not that great, so they might be falling off and not listening to you properly. So how do you think that these things can sort of be improved, and this conversation around access and other issues can be improved?
It's a gray area. It's a gray area. Maybe we can have maybe more bodies, like bodies or associations can bring more competitions. There are a lot of institutions out there that are pushing tournaments at most 2, 3 weekends for high school students. That's a very good way to start. Maybe when we have them so much, the way we have so much comps, like there is so much comp majors, um, comes on the weekend for university students. Maybe if we have that for high schoolers, it can increase the access. Yeah, something around that, I think.
True. So is there anything that you would say specifically that can be good for students to then, when they're listening into this, possibly be better as say speakers or judges as they are approaching different stages of their journey?
So obviously, I'm going to ask all of my kids in Nova to watch this when it's outside. So yeah, kudos to all of the Nova kids that are going to be watching this. You guys are doing very good job. I'm so sorry for telling you that, anyways. But the point is, so if you're watching this as a schooler, uh, one, the debating is a very, very interesting sport. So either you're using debating as a means to improve yourself, as a means to maybe get to see the world, or debating is just going to be a transition into a career path like it did for me. Whatsoever path you want to take, it's a very, very good sport that its investment is always worth it. So the return in investment in debating is always worth it. So if the return in investment is breaking awards or making the grand finals awards, or just maybe the friends that you're going to be making in debating, or the places or the countries that you visit, the food you eat, all of these are really, really nice, and they are experiences you need to have. And the only way you can have those experiences is when you pay attention to debating, you meticulously study the materials that you have. Yeah, I think that's basically all. It's worth the investment. If there's anything I want to leave as an advice, it's whatsoever investment you put into debating, it is really, really worth it.
True. I think the more you practice a skill, the better you become. I think there is also a lot to be said when they're going to be energetic enough to be doing this in different fronts. So there are so much more things to discuss, right? We have like your experiences about regional majors and everything. So I think like we can start with that as well. So you've done a lot of regional majors. So what was the thought process behind this? Like when you were approaching regional majors, what were the certain things that you did to prepare better? How were those experiences different from maybe say other tournaments, and how you think um, your experiences were unique to you, and what stories you can tell us from them.
So for pants, I'm just going to take it the way I started. So I'm going to do pants, I'm going to say UADC, and then words. So I'll just go that way. And then. So for pants, I think I explained earlier that it was the first comp that I did when I started judging. So I had my expectations for pants was not really, really big. I just wanted to see how it works. I think I wasn't I wasn't a chair until maybe the fifth or the sixth round, if I could remember. I still but I wasn't a chair. So apparently, I had done the judges test. So I was a panel. I was just flowing, like drifting with the flow or with the current, until I got to the like when they announced the break and I broke. It was so much of a joy for me because a year before then, there is this internal we have in my institution. So when I and my partner pulled out on me 2 days before the comp starts. So I couldn't get like the peak was over, and everybody have that experiences where you have a very good partner and then they dump you. And now there is no other person to pick for comps for the comp because like every other speakers, it's 2 days to the comp. Every speaker already is prepared. So there's this novice who had no partner and I had to speak with them. So I remember the first round, we had the second. I think we won the second round. So we went to the top room. And then my institution was and is still the foremost debating institution in the Nigerian debating circuit. So um currently the national champion, and yeah, we've been to the grand final of pants yeah, a couple of times also, and semis. So but the point is I but the point is there. In the third round, in the top room, we finished. I think a second or a third. So we were really, really looking at the breaks, but we missed the break by a point, and it was a wrecking moment for me. I remember I had a friend Victor who came to meet me. I was like, "Oh, dude, this is cool. You've done impressively well. You can do better." So I had the experience of not breaking and what not breaking looks like because I remember that night I was still it was past midnight. I still took out my phone and I was refreshing the breaking list to see if miraculously someone had slot in my team name overnight. I never knew what I was doing at that point. But yeah, I was hoping someone had slotted our team name to the break or there's a glitch on tab and now they have us breaking or something. So when I broke up pants, I it was a very fun field experience and allocated for the quarters. I got allocated for the semis. I was like, whoa, this is far fetched. And then when the panel of the grand final came out and I was allocated, I was so happy. It was one of the most amazing moments that I've had. But then let's talk about words. So because I had so much time to prepare for words. So when the IA mail came in and I got accepted as an IA, I started a plan. So I had like I think a month to plans. I was watching videos. I bought this bunch A4 papers and I was watching debating videos. I was trying to I would watch around, I would listen to the round, I would take feedback, I would give OA. That was how I was way practicing before the comps. So for Word, it was a very, very like it was really, really interesting. I was anxious before every round. I and it was one of the best moments because I think round seven or round nine, I was in a room and I had Ensign Lee in that room. Like that's the most beautiful moment of my debating career because the Ensign Lee I had watched for a lot of time in making debating video. I don't remember because they were on cap on the cup. I can't remember if they were cheering me or I was cheering them, but they were in that room and it was like the most beautiful debating moment of my life. It is still the most beautiful, interesting moment. I had anything, I had yeah. So it's really really nice. And I think the next round there was Teen. Um, Teen was in the round two. They were judging the round two, so it was a very very amazing moment. So apparently that's how it works for me, or that's how my the thought process in terms of calm. And when they announced the break, so when I saw Ensign Lee, I think I've had an idea of how allocation works. I know, oh, there is a CA members coming to observe me 2 rounds to the like to break. So I know I was doing really, really well. So I knew, oh, I had to keep this composure. And I after the round, I turned off my phone because I did not want to. The duration before breaks, that feeling, and it was way. I took a long walk. I think I walked for like 15 minutes. I just took a long walk. I came back to the house. I was really anxious, and then yeah, they announced the break, and I had broken awards. It was incredible. I think in my circuit then, we were just 2 persons that had broken in words in my circuit. And when I was allocated for quarterfinals, then because we've had people who had smashed that record now. But at that point when I was allocated, I became the first person in Western Africa to judge the quarterfinal of words. So we've had incredible people who had judged the grand finals. I think Salome had judged World's grand final 2 times now. So it's so we've gotten people who had smashed those records. But those records still mean so much to me. Like they hold so much to me because at that point it was almost watching your dream come true. And yeah, those are really, really important moments of our lives that when we look back to, we still share the joy that we had those days. It's a moment everybody should have in their career.
Interesting things that you mentioned. I think that's very high. You have your highs, you have your lows, you do a couple of things around in the space where you have the most amount of fun doing it. The next part is sort of going to be discussing that idea, right? Because I think you mentioned about how you've been doing tournaments across and you've been from one of the premier institutions in Nigeria. So could you give us a bit of rundown about what your experiences around Nigeria as a debating country was, what kind of like personal anecdotes you can give us, and what kind of like tidbits you can provide to us about, say, how Nigeria is and what Nigeria does and so on.
The Nigerian debating circuit, I am so happy I'm going to be saying this to the international debating circuit who gets to watch this. I do feel the Nigerian debating circuit is the most passionate debating circuit in the world. Most people do not make it to the international stage. Most people do not maybe have access to speak in incredible larger tournaments or speak awards or even break as word as judge like some of us had. But in terms of passion, the Nigerian debating circuit is a passion filled debating circuit. People travel, the way Nigerian works, if I try putting that into perspective, it's easier to get. It's difficult to get. But people travel 24 hours, people travel long distances to go to comp. And in that comp, they put in everything they've had. They do have in that comp. I'd see numerous comps on the Nigeria in Nigeria before I left for China. So the debating circuit is a circuit that is filled with incredible talent. We can talk about arguably one of the greatest debater that has come on the continent. David Ejim is a Nigerian. These are amazing debaters who never spoke like at international tournaments, but were really, really good. So the Nigerian debating circuit has amazing debaters that are extremely good, but who do not speak in international tournaments for reasons that are known to them. But secondly, like every debating circuit, it's a circuit that is mixed with the drama, the drags, and all of the things that comes with debating. But overall, it's a debating circuit that I really, really love, and it has contributed and does still contribute to my growth as a debater, the the tournaments we've attended, the people who still give themselves into debating and all of that. So the Nigerian debating circuit is a passionate debating circuit. It's a very, very interesting debating circuit. And hopefully the Nigeria debating circuit can host a major tournament in the nearest future. It's something I would really, really live and love to see.
True. I think there's a lot of love for you, from your end also for these individuals, and they hopefully will be doing better in terms of the way that they are performing. And things keep changing. I think there was a lot of problems in terms of representation for developing nations, as well as other places, which was not really represented that well in the world forums and other places. I think a lot of that is changing now, and a lot of people are getting more access, and the conversation is sort of shifting from time to time as well. There's so much things in flux that you have to be very careful in how you are going to like promote the activity, how you're improving the activity, and so on.
So on that, in terms of access, I think we must give a huge kudos to the debating circuit, like the debating community at large. Tournaments are making debating accessible. There are scholarship slots for most major cons. So talk about Princeton Ivy, the pre-EUDC, pre-WUDC. There are always scholarship, and in terms of even picking DCAs, they were going to pick DCAs in terms of representation so people could learn and then give back to their community. I must give a kudos to those comms or international comms, really, really prestigious comms that have reached out to some of us to DCA and cap the comms. Princeton Ivy for myself, Western Ivy, the Indian fundraiser, like being able to stay on the same cap with arguably the best debaters in this generation. You're able to learn how to be good CAs, and then in return, you give that back to your community. The debating circuit is really, really in that form of progress. And I think we must give kudos to the world's the initiative in terms of the mentorship initiative that the current CAP for Words is implementing. Amazing progress. Uru Words, another big form of to level grant to ensure that speakers can debate free of charge. So there is so much progress in the debating circuit that is really, really of a kudos. And yeah, most of these I'm a part of. For instance, I'm on CA for Uru for this particular edition. I'd gotten access to most debating comp, like I talked about, to debate with champions of WUDCs, champions of EUDCs, and arguably the best debaters of this generation. It's an amazing feat, I must say.
Interesting, because I think the first thing that we get away from that is that you've also been like a very experienced person who has done a lot of scoring in tournaments and all. So, what was your first experience scoring a tournament, and how have you sort of had that recount? And you mentioned around that you have the offer for doing Uhuru this year as well. Uhuru, as we know, is a very big premier competition. So, what kind of like experiences and thought process do you have around, say, scoring, and how you have like gotten access into this?
Current is really, really nice. The nice part is you're not scared of breaks. I always say this because that's just a funny part. Like you're not for the first time you're in a competition, but you're not scared of not breaking. So, so it works really, really perfect. But outside the joke, I think Arch Current is really nice. When I worked at Princeton, or when I was on the CAP team for Princeton, Western Ivy, Indian fundraiser, I actually saw how like act organization works, and most of the comms I've seen over 150 comms on top of my head I could remember. I think this year this is my like eighth. We both are on a CA panel this year, and that's like my ninth. So yeah, that's the ninth CA com that I'll be doing for the year. So I've done like it's vast experiences that I've learned, and I wouldn't get all of the preceding ones if the Princeton, the Western Ivy do not give me an opportunity to DCA to learn with the best. I've worked with arguably the best. Like I've worked with Jason, I've worked with like I can't even mention it because I'm going to skip a lot of names. But I've worked with the best in the world. I've worked with Bannon, I've worked with Hada, I've worked the best in the world that anyone could think of. I've like learned how things are done. I have put that into myself to be a better CA. I've implemented that in terms of putting that into my union and my circuit to ensure that such remains there. But then there are downside also, and I must quickly mention this. One of those downsides was PAUDC. I think PAUDC 2023, I guess 2023, 2023. Uh, so we had like some logistical problem, and um, sometimes so the bulk of the work, because I was on cap for the PAUDC, the bulk of the work then rested on the CA members to rescue the tournament. Because a day before the tournament starts, we wanted to cancel PAUDC. People had flew in from different parts of the world, from different parts of the continent. People had planes were still in the sky. Some persons had arrived. But we've had a meeting that we should cancel PAUDs. I remember going into council meeting, and council was discussing if they should cancel PAUDC. But team says, oh, regardless of the condition, this is debating, let's do it. And I must give kudos to every participant of that PAUDC for like regardless of those conditions that were available, the hostile conditions, they still give everything to debate. And then to all of the SCAP members, it was a trying period. It was really, really tough. And then we were still able to work within that, that particular framework. A very big, like a very big experience I will never forget is because I sometimes come up as somebody who doesn't snap. Like I barely react to things. Like I just keep them to myself. And I remember that when draws were out, the venue we were supposed to use, we had like issues with venue. So most of those venues were locked. The draws were already out. So what we were doing is I was the DCA, but at the same time, I was looking for debate venues that were free within the campus that we used. So I had like over 100% working with me. So I will look for a free building. I will say, oh, room 302 starts the debate now. And then we'll go and you go. So we are working that way. And then somebody made a comment. Like someone made a comment. I've forgotten the comment. I assume the person is frustrated with the whole thing. And the person made a comment. And I looked back. And I can't say what I said on the comment. It was they were not offensive word in the first place. I just reacted like we've like that was the peak of like it was the peak of maybe the 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 experiences we've had. But after that, we all laughed over all that happened. I think I met to the person and they were like, "Oh, I understood what actually happened, but thank you so much for taking time to lead us through this." So that's all we've done for debating. So on the flip side, there are majorly good sides, and sometimes um, things really, really happen when you are on arch core, and then you have to put the tournament on your shoulder to ensure that this ship doesn't sink. We must like steer this ship to the shore.
There are a lot of other moving parts also in tournament organization. You mentioned a couple of things that are very important. I've run a couple of tournaments. I'm planning to run a couple of tournaments, and I've seen that there is a lot of logistical issues and there's a lot of problems. Though I've done these things online, so it becomes much more easier for me, because if I would have had to go into the venue, find rooms, and do stuff, I have organized things in a physical venue, but it's way tougher, way harder. In online, you just send out a Gmeet and it becomes so much easier. Just go and join the room and just let me do the debate there. And that's sorted, sort of. But then it's interesting as well, because since you've had such like long journey and long trajectory, you then transition into going into China for your coaching experiences. So from Nigeria to China, did you find any sort of like particular differences when you went into China and the Chinese circuit? Did you find anything which is particularly interesting for you when you went into China?
I must say, like money, debating is like a general currency in terms of acceptance. I might liken it to football because I remembered when I love Chelsea FC, and I actually met a fan who doesn't speak English, and I have my Mandarin is not way good. And we are able to connect strictly because we love the same club. Like we both were using facial expression to maybe look at players that have missed chances this daily, or we're like saying, and we were not speaking to ourselves, but it was like that football connections that both of us expressing the same emotions. Likewise with debating, I did actually thought I was going to have it really tough in terms of transiting circuits because I think at some point I'd established myself on the African continent. So shifting circuits means I have to start over again here. Because here you have to go to comms, you have to show up every round. You need the archcore to trust you as a judge. The archcores are not going to trust you for your previous achievements. They need to know if you're still in the game. So it's like starting over again. But I do enjoy the start process. So I just felt, oh, I might just use that start again as a speaker. And then last year I was at GDC, one of the largest debating comms here. I was the second best speaker. I spoke at SIDO this year. I was the ninth best speaker. Got knocked out in the quarters. So it's really really fun that the debating circuit, there are no differences within both debating circuits, like accommodative. The judges judge still fairly like it is supposed to. So it's unique. It's unique that regard like on the two circuits there are arguably no differences. That you make new friends, so it's not different. There are no differences. I must say I've enjoyed the same amount of opportunity that I do enjoy on the Nigerian on the African continent, like I am enjoying now in the circuit.
So there are a couple of next important things that we can discuss around how Chinese debating as well. So could you just reflect a bit about what are the major tournaments that we find in Nigeria and China, and give us a bit of oversight from these countries that you worked in so extensively and from where you are right now?
I think SIDO is like China's largest com. It's nice. It is competitive. It's 15 years now, so it's like a very very grand comms. The best speakers in the world, previous past, they've all attended this com. On the African continent, we have KDO. The KDO is a very nice debate. There's Josie Rumble in South Africa. I think I've seen these two comps. I've seen Josie Rumble in Southern Africa. I've seen KDO in Ghana, and some other cool comps. Largely, I think these competitions serve like the same purpose differently. So, for instance, the KDO is a SIDO is a larger comp, but it doesn't only bring in competitors from the Asian continent. It still outstretches beyond that. So we have people coming from the US, we have people coming from the UK, we have people coming from Australia and other part of life. This year, people came in from my continent. Like we had representation from my continent in SIDO. So I think it's large, but secondly is it's on the African continent. The purpose is to just make debating accessible. So the tournament is still top notch. The KDO Josie Rumbles are still very, very top notch comps. They have at most 20 to 25 rooms in these two tournaments that I've mentioned. Large, big. We still have the best around the continent attending. So, yeah, so
So when you talk about your new experiences and your new journey and speaking and judging as well, let's just transition into the place where we can sort of have some feedback going in for people into how they can improve and how they can do different things. Since you've also been a debate coach and you've taught children, so this would be something which hits close to your heart as well, because you would be able to give good advice. So we spoke a bit about how you would help like novices entering things, but let's just talk a bit more about, say, how maybe there might be any specific drills that people can follow and quick tidbits that they can like sort of go ahead and take into account so that they can improve quickly as a speaker or a judge.
the brick by brick, the precept by precept way of learning. So regardless of everything you've done, maybe you have an active debate institute where you spar, or you have videos that you watch, which is really, really important, or you have materials that you consume. There is Ryan's matter files. There is like really, really good resources out there that you can um, engage. You can even there's debate serious posting in a group on Facebook where people make very beautiful analogy of debating scenarios that you could read and gain insight from. But I think the favorite part, especially for novices, is to just practice yourself. Like randomly give yourself debates, make a speech, listen to the speech, and then ask yourself, what can I do better in this speech? Did I make this wrong? Am I supposed to impact this? If I am a judge, would I buy this case? Or sometimes just say, oh, you can just say, oh, let's assume opening government around this case. I'm going to be making a closing government extension speech. Then you ask yourself question, is this how extension speech works? And then you could just reach out to maybe an OD in your circuit and then say, oh, can I send this video to you? Can this record to you? Can you listen to this? Can you tell me what to improve? So as novice, that is the most important thing. Identifying what you want to work on and then working on the exact thing that you want to work on. Do you want to work on framing? Do you think your framing is bad? There is good framing workshops on YouTube. Um, that you can have access to. There are platforms like this one that you have where you could listen to speakers and then intuitively learn from them. And then brick by brick, precept by precept, you then get to make yourself better. You record those speech, you listen to them, you work on them, you fix those particular loops, and yeah, you're really, really heading for the top.
Very true. I think there's a lot of things that people can take into account when they're learning in their journey, and I think you mentioned a couple of very important things as well, which would help them. So, in terms of then going into sort of like a hypothetical situation, you would have seen so much in debating. You would have seen so many things happen and so many transitions happen and so on and so forth. So, where do you think debate is headed currently? So, do you have anything which you perceive as the future of debating, or do you think that there's anything specific that you think is good to refer to right now in terms of how things are moving and things are going on?
Yeah, I think it's just the middle point between it's just the middle point between um what what we want to do with debating or what debate goes into. I think over time we've had people come into debating spotlight and then they return back to maybe job or some persons just do other things outside debating. People take break and they never return back to the sport. But regardless, I think the debating circuit is still really, really top notched. Earlier, we've discussed the fact that it's even more accessible. So I really do not have data to see if we are having more people coming to debate or we have more people leaving debate. But I think on the top of my head, I must say cons are getting fewer. Um, Maybe the rise of the because we had large episodes of in person cons and they were online, the COVID online shift, and now I think comms are returning back to in person. Maybe the rise of the in person comp after COVID had significantly declined the level of online comms or how people appreciate online comms. But I think if there's something I want us to work in is to just re-improve the online comms, ensure the online comms are still really, really engaging and really, really nice. We can then allow people access the best debating comms like we've always had them. I had people who spoke at Manchester Ivy, people who spoke at Oxford Ivy, Cambridge Ivy when these comms were online. There are still tournaments you can't speak at, but well, I'm not even saying we should make this tournament online. I'm not saying we should make this tournament online because the importance of these comms are they are in person. That's what makes them the best. I'm saying we can have these comms, like some of this, most of comms, sharing same pattern with these really, really prestigious debating competitions, so we can have more people attracted to debate or join the sport.
Very interesting, because I think for me personally, when there were a lot of different things that were going around, I think COVID was the time that I got mostly into debating, because it becomes so much easier for me to access with somebody who doesn't have a lot of finances, or somebody who doesn't have a lot of like possibility to undertake these kind of activities. It becomes much more accessible when you talk about things like online competition. So you raise a very good point about, say, there being a need for a good mixture of online and offline competitions, online being for them who have these access problems but can access good quality competitions for the right price and for the right like people, and also have access to good quality like judges such as yourself also, when you've done a lot of online competitions and code online competitions. And while in-person competitions does have this element of social networking and social like union in terms of how you are having a network effect and changing different things and dynamics. So you do bring this like conversation pointed. There's an important consideration between online and offline debating. So do you think that socializing or networking and debating is also anyway important, or there is any like thought process that goes around in your mind where you think that like this is a sport where it helps making friends, or it helps like doing this sport with a lot of people around you?
I think most of my closest friends now are debaters, like the people who have shown up when life really gets dark, or when you just when you need someone to. Most of them, or 90% of them, are debaters. So debating has given me friends, outside the fact that it had given me like so much benefit comes with the socialization that comes with it. So I think debating is really really something where you can get everything that you want. You can make the best of friends within debate and at the same time. So the socializing part of debating is really, really nice because it just gives you an opportunity to get people who look out for you in that time in debating and all of that. So debating is way, way better as a speaker in terms of what you learn. And on the socializing part, I must say, and that's why you give kudos to in person. In person comes just ensure because sometimes it's really, really difficult to connect with people without like the physical presence. I think it gets better when you see your friends in person. You can have talk about things that are like around the world. You can just have beautiful and immense competitions that are really, really great. So a very good example was like Ashish had been somebody who my debating circuit always talk about. I remembered there was a time when I had like three friends and they were Mohammed, Modulus, Ghost, and we were discussing then. This should be 2021, 22. We're discussing and they were like, oh, Ashish. Some person, and one was saying, is the Ashish. Another person said, is the Arish. Another one said, oh, is the Shenwili, and all of that. So within that name, I have always known Ashish, like online, like Ashish, Ashish, Ashish. And I think 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I guess, we both attended the same comp and we judged the grand finals together. And I was like, oh, this is Ashish in person. So we had conversation, we had little talk and all of that. And they were really, really nice to eventually meet the Ashish in person. And every other friend I've had, Pranav Kagaka, very amazing friend, Tenku Umar, like my really, really, really good friend. So yeah, the in person comes just make them really better.
Right. So that's a very interesting thing as well. So we can have sort of like heading towards the end of the conversation right now. So before we wrap up, let's hear a bit of thoughts about you, about what you want to do next as well in debating. So what's next for you? What are the competitions that we can see you at? What are the couple of things that you have in mind or in store for the next couple of years?
So when I started debating, I had things I wanted to do, and it's I think I have three more things on the list. First is I've attended just two comps that I didn't break at LSC and Ostras. I didn't break at Camberton, Ostras, and LSC. So I would want to make amends. Like to really end my story, I had promised to make amends. So I'll be trying Ostras again this year. So I got in as an IA. So maybe I might not be available to give this the other part if I had broken at Ostras, but obviously I'm going to put that on my Facebook page or something. So I'll be in Ostras to try giving Ostras a try, and I might attend LSC in the UK, yeah, in the UK in London, just strictly to break at it. But the last thing is I have made three attempts for DCA for what I'll still put in two more applications, I guess. So hopefully those are the last three things on my bucket list as a debater. I'm still available to judge comms, to see comms, to help circuit growth. Grow. I think I've had like incredible amounts of people reaching out to say, "Oh, we're just starting our debating circuit. Do you mind serving us as Archcore? We do not have any remuneration." I'm like, "Oh, it's fine. Like, it's not about the remuneration. It's about the fact that we give people chance, because I was given a chance to as a judge, as a speaker, and all of that. So basically, this is my to-do list: LSC, Ostras, and hopefully DCA awards, because sometimes some of these things are just things that are not meant to be. So I hope it is, but if eventually I never get to DC awards, I am really, really, I'm incredibly happy with the amount of success and achievements I've had in debating, and then continue my job. I really, really enjoy debating. Huge kudos again to the Nova crew, Kevin, Daniela, and every other guys that have said I would mention their name on the podcast or something. So yeah, that's that. But that's basically what, yeah, I would, the bucket list that I have. And then I think one last thing, we are on cab together for a comp, so hopefully make that experience really, really nice too for people who are going to be speaking or judging at the comp.
True. Very, very grateful for having you on board, Toby. I think that was a very interesting discussion as well. There were a lot of different things. I'm pretty sure that those goals that you set for yourself you'll reach pretty soon, and you've already reached so many of them already. I mean, your checkered list of like achievements and all the other things that you've done in the past is a very interesting read in and of itself, and it also gives inspiration to a lot of people from the work that you're doing with people as well. I hope that you do well and continue achieving the goals that you have on your bucket list. But thank you so much again for coming on board with us for this episode. We're very glad to have you on board. We have a lot of things that we are engaged with as well in the future, and I hope that you can come and join us again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a great opportunity to be able to hear all of those opinions, to have this conversation with you. We must give the team, like I said earlier, the kudos for organizing such conversations for debaters to meet. Thank you so much, and hopefully, when I come again, I'll have DCA words and like mark off all my bucket list so I can add that to the experience I'm sharing. Thank you so much for having me.
Very true. Fingers crossed. Pretty soon that we'll have you on board a CAP panel on worlds and other major regional majors too. But yes, thank you so much, Toby. Let's hope to have you here again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much.